So with rising interest rates, right, what we want to understand is how susceptible, or is that increase in interest rates going to cause the market to be hit? So the TLDR of the MAS Financial Stability Review 2022, okay, it says most households are adequately placed to cope with income and interest rate shocks. Now, to what extent? They even mentioned that in the review, and I'll tell you to what extent they are planning for and how they come to this conclusion later on, right? Couple of slides down. Right. They also say most households appear to be resilient to income and interest rate shocks, and the proportion of non-performing mortgage loans is likely to remain low. How low? I'll give you the answer later on as well. Some households are found to be more vulnerable to adverse shocks and need to be cautious about taking on additional debt in current environment. And I think that's actually, you read like that, quite common sense lah. Right, so we need to look at the more detailed numbers and more data to sort of extract out the essence, right, of it.
Hello, sorry to interrupt. We'd like to take the opportunity to thank you for watching the video and also to share why we do what we do. Is to empower consumers with hard facts and figures, quality research and real-life examples to allow them to make the most informed property decisions. So if you found our videos useful, the only thing we ask for is for you to smash that like and subscribe button so that the YouTube algorithm can push out our videos to more consumers. Thank you, and back to the video.
So in the next page, right? Not next page, one of the pages, what they mentioned, they took stock of how much cash the Singapore household is holding on to and how much debt is one data point that we mentioned a lot in our channel, right? So the Singapore household is holding on to close to 570 billion. This is the B, 570 billion. So if all of us add together, we'll be richer than Elon Musk and the LVMH dude add together. Cash and deposits. So this is very liquid, is considered liquid assets of the Singapore household, excludes your property, okay? And the household debt stands only at $363 billion. So we are in actually a net cash position. Now this figure excludes the $182 billion that is sitting in the CPF OA on all of our CPF OA. So actually you add together, there's a lot of firepower available in the Singapore household, okay? Which is why I mentioned that concern in the previous slide on the undersupply versus the uncertainty. So once uncertainty drop down, all this liquidity come back into the market. It's basically like walking through that cloud and seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. Will we see a large spike again? Now that's what concerns me. Okay. Okay. Another slide, right? So with rising interest rates, right, what we want to understand is how susceptible, or is that increase in interest rates going to cause the market to be hit, the Singapore household to have to start to fire sale their properties, right? Because that's what the conventional wisdom told us, right? Pre-2013, where people over-leveraged themselves to the hilt, then come interest rate shocks, one property kena repossessed and then domino effect, right? That was what we all remember. That is somebody story, okay? So now let's take a look at the quality of the debt in the Singapore household. That's the purpose of these two charts. Okay, the chart on the left, let me see if I can draw. Okay, so this one is talking about the growth of household debt. So I think, which is why I said I give the government a score of 8 upon 10 with regards to the cooling measures. Why? How do you give the government, how do you give us a high score for the cooling measures? Is where you implement it, prices don't drop overnight, but yet the entire market come out better on the other side. Okay? So you get a good score from me if you achieve that. How? Okay? So you see, household debt has moderated over the past few years. So somehow or rather, the government was able to allow property prices to continue to climb up, but household debt growth to slow down. See here? Slow down. Household debt growth to slow down. Number two, ratio of household debt to PDI. PDI is personal disposable income, right? Also come down. Meaning the Singapore household has more money in their pockets today while enjoying a growth in their property prices. And they are not, basically looking at these two, we are not over leveraging, because you can look, this kind of graph probably not too good, right? Where the year-on-year growth, it's very, very steep, right? The government was probably concerned about this, you see, on these two parts, which is why they have to step in to do cooling measures here and here. So now if they look at, growth of the debt is not increasing very, very quickly, they are happy with it. They are also happy with it that the household debt to disposable income is coming down, meaning there's more people they have more money to spend. This one is a little bit more technical. Maybe the easier one is the next one. The credit quality of housing loans, right? So the government say they expect the numbers to remain low. And I really like this particular chart, because we always get, even till today, consumers coming to us and say, hey, I am looking for fire sale. Basically, somebody cannot afford to pay. I have cash, I have money, I can come in and buy. Do you know the numbers associated with things like that? The percentage of transactions for non-performing housing loan is 0.38%, 10-year average. Right now it's at 0.3. So 3 out of every 100 transactions, correct, 0.3. 3 out of every 100 transactions. No, that's 3%. Yeah, so 3 out of every 1,000 transactions are non-performing loans. So the number associated with this kind of cases is 30 in the last 1 year. 30 in the last 1 year. So you probably stand a better chance striking 4D or striking Toto. Toto maybe about the same chance. Strike 4D, more people strike 4D than people buying this kind of fire sale properties. Fire sale properties. So basically, the Singapore market can well afford to pay their loans. So if you're hoping for somebody to not be able to pay their loan, you can continue waiting. Okay? Chart 3.9. Again, why? Why so many people can afford to pay their loans, and also why the Singapore property price have sort of a very little correlation to interest rate increments is because the average loan to value of the Singapore household is very, very low, right? It stands, continue to go down, has been going down ever since 2017. Today is at 43% average loan to value, meaning on average, a Singapore household has more or less already paid off 60% of their house already. Okay, almost paid off 60% of their house. So they won't really feel that big of a pinch if interest rates were to go up. Later on, I will share with you another reason why the Singapore, right now this is really deep level data to really show you why the Singapore, right? Because a lot of the times we look at it and say, hey, why interest rate go up, prices don't drop, right? Today, I will share with you some of those data. Later on, another reason why you don't see prices moving as much, even though interest rates go up. Next part, right? And this is basically the last paragraph of the section on households, okay? So when MAS say that they expect the Singapore household to be able to withstand the external shocks and interest rate increase, how much of a shock, how much of an increase? They even put down to what extent. So let me basically read it out to you. Even under the scenario of a simultaneous and immediate 400 basis point increase, 400 basis point means a 4% increase in interest rates. So now, today the interest rate 4%. An additional 4% increase. So they are factoring in 8% interest rates. That is from what I understand reading this article. I cross-checked it with a former MAS associate of mine. And he reads it the same way as well, okay? An additional 4% increase in interest rates, and sorry, the one I circle very badly, but and a 10% reduction in income. Even with that, most households are expected to be able to continue servicing their debt, okay? Then the other part as to why the Singapore real estate prices have very little correlation to interest rate increments is that, out of 100% of all property loans, only 38% of loans, about 4 out of every 10 loans are on floating rates, right? 62% are on either fixed rates or board rates. Basically, they track interest rate increments with a little bit of lag. And that is one of the big reasons why. Of course, you can flip it around and say that, oh, so maybe the market hasn't really felt this interest rate increment yet, they may feel it later on. So the government already planned already, and they have already factored this into their calculation already, and they still feel the Singapore market is stable. Why? Because of our net cash position, low LTV, and also all that CPF park aside that can be utilized in a rainy day. Of course, then you'll be asking, so who exactly is vulnerable? I feel it's really the folks that you have to count to the very last dollar to determine that you can make that upgrade, make that move. Also, if you do not factor in, so right now, if you are planning for an upgrade, you do have to factor what if one party loses their job for at least a year and a half. Right? You need to factor that into your financial calculation, and if you factor that in and you realize it's not going to work, then you are probably in that vulnerable group, I feel, okay?